Yoru, Enma, Fungfreet. These are some of the craziest and most powerful swords in the world of One Piece, but are they really that broken? I like to think that we can do much better. And by me, I mean you, because I had all of you submit your ideas for the best and most powerful swords that should absolutely exist in One Piece, and oh boy, did you guys deliver. And so let me present to you the 21 best out of almost 1,000 amazing submissions of swords that would break One Piece, and we just have to start with a blade that would be absolutely busted. Because we've all seen what devastating effects storms can have on the high seas of the One Piece world, so just imagine how broken a sword would be that could literally harness the raw power of a storm to destroy anything in its path. Well, that's what that first sword literally is. Submitted by Amber from New Zealand, our first very much broken sword is called the Stormshard Blade, which is very cool. So get this, it's basically a sword that was forged in the heart of a thunderstorm, and it cracks with the sound of raw storm energy. And just that by itself is already pretty gnarly if you ask me. Now they do say that legends speak of this sword's ability to summon storms at will, unleashing torrents of wind and rain upon its enemies. All of course while its user can strike with it with lightning precision. But here's the real shocker, because it's said that those who wield the Stormshard Blade are said to harness the fury of nature itself, becoming unstoppable forces on the battlefields. Of course, not to mention, by controlling the actual wind, you'd actually be able to sail wherever you would want to, whenever you'd want. You know, no more letting Mother Nature determine where you're going in the One Piece world, and needless to say, you'll need more than an umbrella to deal with this sword as well. Okay, but here's the deal. Imagine it wielded by someone like Monkey D. Dragon. I mean, it's pretty safe to say that he would be the storm that is approaching. He already seems to have storm power, so imagine that times 2, he would be basically a living hurricane. But yeah, I do hear you. Maybe he doesn't really need it on top of his own powers, which is why Sabo would be honestly a great choice if you asked me for the sword. The whole Revolutionary Army has a storm winds of change kind of theme going on, so why not let the second in command also get in on the action? Just imagine that paired with his fire powers. So that was the Storm Sword, the very first on our list, but let's now already move on to number 20, a blade that is a little bit more venomous. And that's because thanks to Julian Bailey, we have a blade that is just beyond crazy if you ask me. It's called the Silver Vipra, and unlike the Storm Shard earlier, this sword is very hungry. Literally. You can kind of imagine that as a sword, it's quite similar to Fungfreet, because it also has been infused with a zone devil fruit, but instead the fruit that it ate was the Hippie no Mi model Titanoboa. Oh yeah, you do know that this is going to get wild. As you might imagine, the Vipra has the base ability to transform itself into the Titanoboa, a gigantic snake. And obviously because it's both alive and very flexible, it basically allows the user to curve the blade at and around people, having a move where the snake coils up to launch a deadly jab, like basically one that can match the strength and speed of Gear Force Luffy punches, which, are you kidding me, is already so broken. Now, Julian himself didn't recommend anyone who should wield this sword, but I do think it's safe to say that someone like Boa Hancock is probably a good choice, and not only because of the name, if you get my drift. Imagine Boa's speed and devil fruit powers, but giving her even crazier range to attack and a venomous blade. I'll gladly say it, if she showed up with a sword that could transform into a giant snake, I think it's pretty much game over for literally anyone in her path. And if you think that these two first swords were already super cool and broken, just you wait. The upcoming ones get crazier and crazier, and the final 2 on this list may just break the whole One Piece world in half by themselves. But for now, let's get back to our list and move on to our numbers 19 and 18. And for these two, I'm actually going to double them up because of just how similar they actually are. But don't worry, just because they're kind of similar, it doesn't mean they won't make your soul shiver. And that's because Zetsu, the Soul Blade, and the Tamashi are both blades that can literally steal and directly damage the soul of an enemy itself. So thank you Sammy, Cabaret, and Joel for submitting these absolutely legendary blades. And let's actually start with the Zetsu here. It's a sacred sword said to be wielded by the ancient samurai of the Wano country. And as I previously said, it has the ability to ignore the opponent's durability and strike directly into its soul. In fact, its strikes are said to be able to slice opponents literally like butter. But not only that, due to its age, it's already a black blade as well. What a crazy feat to talk about. It's no wonder that Sammy thinks that someone like Zoro would be a perfect fit for this. And I personally have to agree, he already has mastered a few legendary blades from Wano, and without any doubt, Zetsu here would be another great addition as a blade for the newly appointed King of Hell. So yeah, attacking the soul is one thing, but what about straight up stealing it? Well, that is where the Tamashi comes in. This weapon is said to steal the soul of the wielder's opponent, and when an individual is stabbed in the heart by this sword, instead of dying, they enter a kind of deep slumber and their soul is sent to hell for eternal suffering. Yikes! I personally wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of this one. Both the heart stabbing part and also the eternal suffering part both sound really bad. Though I must admit that the Tamashi does have one big drawback, because if your soul isn't strong enough to wield it, well, it'll just steal your soul instead. The good thing is, the wielder that I wanted to pick for this sword wouldn't have to worry about it having a strong enough soul. Because as we know, there is nobody in One Piece stronger in that department than the literal Soul King himself, Brook. Because coincidentally, he's just the perfect loophole to the side effects of this weapon, which means that he would wield it with the full strength necessary to send everyone to hell without any of the sword's drawbacks. And of course, you might now say that souls are a very scary thing to deal with, but sometimes all that mystical power stuff just gets a little bit too complicated. But you know what isn't? Guns. Pretty simple. They shoot and you die. And with that in mind, what if, they could do both, shoot and stab? Because that's right, our next pair of swords isn't your regular slash and stab weapon, they are gun blades, and one may just be a little bit more broken than the other one here. So how about we start nice and simple with the 50 caliber katana, a blade that is packing some serious heat right here. Thanks for sending that one over, Dean. Now, hear me out. Basically, this magnum blade is a sword that ate the pistol no Mi, and the sword is such capable of using its gun powers in a variety of ways. It can shoot bullets with each of its swings to extend the range, which in itself is already a crazy powerful feature. But it can also use the bullets to create extra momentum by firing them like a little booster from the back. But what I think is the absolute coolest feature here is its ultimate attack, where the blade folds down to reveal a 50 caliber gun. Because sometimes it is just about raw firepower, and now imagine this sword in the hands of a legendary sniper like, let's say, Yasop. Yeah, now you're seeing how wild it can actually get. Now, Haki infusion is powerful, but some fighters just simply can't use Haki, and that's okay, if they can't use it, they will need a weapon to compensate for those pesky Devil Fruit users instead. And conveniently enough, that is exactly where the Sea Stone Gunblade comes in handy as well, brought to us by Rhythm from India. And so basically, very similarly to the 50 caliber katana, this is a sword and gun type of combo, but it comes with the added benefit of the Sea Stone that it's infused or made out of. And what this means is that it basically lets lower level marines or pirates or generally non-Haki users have a real fighting chance against Logia and Paramecia users from close or far range alike. But here is where it gets really interesting. Imagine a full marine troop armed with these types of blades / guns, because any high-ranking Devil Fruit user would begin to truly struggle even against lower level marines if both the swords and the bullets are made of Sea Stone. So this is where this sword gets truly busted. You know what? Speaking of busted, how about we talk about a Buster sword? And no, we're not talking about Final Fantasy here. I'm talking about a sword that can literally summon a Buster Call. And yeah, of course, I am actually talking about our next weapon here, the Buster Blade. This one was submitted by Wesley in Calgary, and this weapon is basically a sword with a little compartment on the hilt that hides a transponder golden snail. By using and pressing it, you'd have the ability to summon a Buster Call to whatever island you're currently on, even while fighting. All you'd have to do is just get out of harm's way before it arrives, I guess. And I do think that Wesley and I kind of had the same line of thought, because there is literally one person who I do think needs this weapon more than anyone else in the story. You know him, you hate him, it's of course Spandam. And let's be honest, he's an absolute waste for Funk Freed, but he's absolutely perfect for this one. Hot-tempered, annoying, and definitely the type of guy to take things to the extreme way too quickly. So giving him the nuclear launch codes in the hilt of his sword? Move over, Funk Freed, because Spandam does have a new sword now. Alright, so we've talked about some pretty strong weapons so far already, but there are so many more in store with way more ridiculous powers. Like, you're not ready, it's just gonna go crazy from here on out. For example, why not pivot over to the legendary katana Solstice Radiance? Tice in Belgium submitted this pretty cool looking sword that connects with the wielder and lets them combine their sword with their devil fruit properties. So, you know, can you imagine a sword that causes earthquakes when you swing it in Whitebeard's hands, or shoot healing fireballs when Marco the Phoenix is wielding it? In other words, it is the perfect weapon for any devil fruit user, and it really takes the whole saying, the sword is the extension of your arm, to a whole new level. Now, sure, offensively, that's just beyond broken for any devil fruit user, but what about defensively? Well, Ethan sent over Raito here, a sword that may just be the ultimate piece of defense ever. Why, you ask? Well, that's because its whole power is Haki Reflection. Yeah, you heard that right. Haki Reflection. Armament or Conquerors or anything advanced, if you try to strike this blade with anything Haki-ish, it'll ripple back and hit you even harder in response. In other words, it is perfect for any Logia fruit user out there, because with this sword they would be practically untouchable, if they are fast enough, that is. Which of course makes it very clear to me that Kizaru would be the absolute perfect match for this one. And by the way, if at this point you're wondering why I decided to do just sword specifically, well, in the submissions there were so many crazy unique styled weapons, and since so many were swords, it just didn't feel fair to lump them all into one old video. So if you want to see just what other really broken and crazy weapon people have submitted, like boxing gloves and tridents, a lot of stuff is up for grabs, so let me know in the comments if you want to see that. But bringing it back to our busted sword ranking now, the next sword submitted by Ethan is bound to be an absolute nightmare. The name of this sword is Ryomen, which, I mean, if you've watched any Jujutsu Kaisen, that does not bode well, and you know, this name does sound like it's gonna be very menacing, I think. And yes, in fact, Ryomen is a blade that creates a second personality for the wielder, one that is directly opposite of their regular self. But not only that, this sword also has a mind of its own and acts to the opposite of the user's current personality. In other words, if you're someone who's a little bit shy and cautious, this weapon would create a version of you when you wield it that is strong, commanding, and insanely powerful. But the real secret power of this sword comes from the fact that it can actually also create a temporary copy of the user and itself. That's right, if you wield the sword, it's a 2-for-1 special, and who doesn't love that? Now, I think it's fair to say that a sword like this would be great for literally any swordsman, but I do agree with Evan here that it would be a great one for Tashigi. She really needs to act more confident or serious sometimes, and this sword would let her split and handle every situation exactly as needed. And now, speaking of the sword Ryomen, I'm sure when I said that, you know, a bunch of you probably thought of Ryomen Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen, and well, funny you'd say that, because our next sword here has something in common with that as well. And I do have to admit, this one is a little bit out there, but I loved it so much I needed to include it, because what really separates this one from the rest in this list is it uses cursed techniques. That's right. It's a sword inspired by Gojo and Yuta from Jujutsu Kaisen. Because Lutz from India brings us this, the strongest, a sword that has the power of infinity and copy. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about Jujutsu Kaisen, what that means is that this sword literally controls space down to the very atom, creating a sort of barrier around its user that makes them impossible to touch unless the enemy has immensely powerful haki in this case. But not only that, it also has the offensive ability to use copy, which basically allows it to mimic any type of attack or power that the user slashes with his blade. So if they were to slash Aokiji, let's say, the sword would suddenly also be able to use Ice Age, for example. Now, I probably don't have to explain to you why this sword is already beyond broken, but it would be even wilder in the hands of, let's say, someone like Dracul Mihawk. After all, the strongest should be wielded by, well, the strongest swordsman. Duh. So yeah, that was a little bit of a detour, but let's now make our way back onto the Grand Line and onto the top 10 list of this video, starting with number 10, the White Fang. Now, thanks to our friend Joey, we've got a sword here that packs quite the crazy bite. Mostly because it's a weapon that ate a mythical zone devil fruit, specifically the Neko Neko no Mi model Byakko, or the White Tiger. And now, despite this sword giving off major Power Ranger vibes for some reason, don't underestimate its actual power. That's because it has the ability to transform into the White Tiger, which lets it become your ally on the battlefield. And it's not a regular tiger, it's a mythical creature. Therefore, not only that, but it can also emit these deep blue burning flames that can burn someone down to their soul. And in my opinion, it should be given to the legendary warrior Fisher Tiger because, well, that's a doubly whammy of tiger power right there, and he might have needed it to stay alive in the first place. And now, while the world government may not really have liked the White Fang, the next sword on this list would have quite the opposite response, I think, and that's because it's all about, bounties. In fact, I do think the world government alone has the power to actually make this sword one of the single strongest items in all of One Piece. The creator of the sword, Homely, specifically designed the Morgan Blade to be a bounty hunter's best weapon. That's because it does automatically increase in its power depending on the height of the bounty of the target. Now, if you want to understand how this sword actually knows the bounties of its target, I have no idea. I just know that the higher your bounty is, the harder this sword will hit you. And so basically, there are two ways of looking at it. Either this sword would be perfect for someone like Kobe, who is constantly hunting down high bounty targets, or honestly, just for fun, could be really great in the hands of someone like Buggy, who can also create bounties through Cross Guild, and in unison with his Chop Chop Fruit, he could deal crazy damage to the likes of the Marines and pirates alike, creating a bounty for them and then attacking them. And oh boy, these swords are all unbelievably powerful. I mean, White Tigers, Buster Calls, Haki Reflection. These are all insanely nuts, but they still don't even come close to the strongest swords that I'm gonna share with you down this list. And let's not skip a beat and head straight into sword number 8, Kyukitsu. Amrit from India is the one who sent this bad boy in, and for a very good reason it made it into this video. That's because this blade can literally drain the life force out of its opponents. And the reason for that is because this sword has the abilities of the Bato Bato no Mi model Vampire. Actually a video game exclusive fruit from the One Piece game Unlimited World Red, so that's a kind of nice callback there. And because it has consumed these crazy zone powers, the sword basically has the ability to shapeshift into bats, to transport itself and its wielder, and the special ability, of course, is to turn the blade red. And once this sword is in its red state, any damage that it deals gives a bloody parasite effect, which basically freezes their blood over time. And I'm sure you think the same thing as me, that this sword should be wielded by Dracul Mihawk, and well, yes, he is technically a good choice for literally any sword, I guess. I think Stussy would be an even better one. I mean, Kyukitsu would give her a few extra vampire powers to really knock out the competition in terms of vampire-ness. if you get my drift. But now, maybe you also feel like we do need a little bit of a change of pace from all of these zone fruits and go to something a lot more simple and a lot more broken: gambling. Oh, what's that? You don't think that gambling could be an absolutely broken power? Well, I think KO and his submission, the Kamikoroshi, will probably change your mind here. Because yeah, this sword is all about gambling, with dice specifically. It basically gives you access to crazy powerful techniques depending on what the dice inside the sword actually roll. For example, you can roll and get a shield that defends you from enemies, extend your sword, or let you teleport for a brief period of time, basically like Law or Van Augur can do. Not only that, but on the higher rolls, you can even shoot something like lightning bolts, buff your strength and speed, or even create multiple copies of the sword that hover around, remotely slashing your opponents. And here you were saying that gambling wasn't broken. This sword is absolutely crazy. All of these options from just rolling the dice passively, and I think that Zoro may just have found his dream weapon as well. Now we just really need another sword that creates alcohol, and he's basically all set and in paradise. But now that we've talked about that legendary sword, let's move on to something a little bit more timely, because our next sword, the Timing Slasher, can deal some crazy damage with its unique time delay effect. Time powers, you do know this is going to be busted. So here's the deal. This blade, created by Al Malik, has a really cool and unique concept. Something that can really quickly go really extreme in the right hands, because its whole gimmick is that you can set a time delay for your attacks. Now, let's just say that you're a super fast fighter like Sanji, and here you are able to hit someone with crazy durability like Kaido a bunch of times. Sure, every individual slash isn't enough to break his defenses even closely, but imagine if 40 blows worth of damage were dealt to the same spot all at once. I dare to say that nobody would be safe from that attack. And so while on the surface it isn't quite as flashy as some of the other stuff we've talked about on this list, it does pack a punch that is absolutely greater than anything I have seen so far, I think. Alright, but let's switch it up again and go with something incredibly simple for our next blade, because thanks to Jeremiah, we have our next absolutely insanely broken weapon, the Kuroi Gin. And do trust me when I say, if a person like Garp or Rayleigh had this sword, it's game over for just about anyone in all of One Piece. Why? Well, that's because this black blade has the ability to bring out the latent and prime era of Haki for its wielder, making sure that anyone fighting with it constantly performs at 100% of their power at their best peak, regardless of when they use it, even as an old man or even as a young person. And that's why someone with truly crazy Haki potential, but with the wisdom and skill of age, could masterfully wield the sword. And in any case, if you're an old and wise man, this may just be the right weapon for you. Then, you know, sometimes you still may need just a little bit more firepower than you and your Haki alone could actually provide, and that's why the Overkiller daggers are here to devastate anyone that they come across. Because these weapons provided by Grant let the user control both the powers of earth and fire with every single slash. And get this, they can even be combined to create volcano-like attacks that can rival even Akainu's devil fruit powers. Now, if you ask me, this sword would be best wielded in the hands of someone who can truly handle the heat, if you get my drift. And if you're a My Hero Academia fan, you may know where I'm actually headed with this. That's right, because in my mind, Kuzan is actually the best person to wield these blades. Because to handle something with serious firepower like this, you'd really need to be able to cool things down quite a lot. But not only that, having these daggers, Aokiji would have the powers of fire, ice, and earth. And imagine all the combinations that you could use all these elements in. So that's more than triple a threat right there, making him probably the most broken character in all of One Piece if he had that. And yes, we are actually moving into the final top contenders of this list, but don't worry, I promise I did save the absolutely most jaw-dropping weapons for last. So let's start with a weapon that honestly was suggested by so many people, it did feel kind of wrong not picking it up. And that's because obviously one of the most broken abilities in One Piece would be a sword with the ability to absorb literal devil fruit powers. And not only absorb them, but it would let the wielder then stockpile them and use them at their command. And honestly, I can just picture that now. You have Mihawk fighting someone like Kaido using the powers of ice, the Ope Ope no Mi, and Mochi to take down the king of the beasts using all of these insane devil fruit powers. So yeah, I do think you can see why this sword just could not exist in the world of One Piece, because it would absolutely break it. But now, if you've been paying attention, there is actually one character specifically you've probably realized I haven't yet given any sword to, which is really surprising considering that he's of course the main character of the series. And well, to be honest, it's really because there's only one sword that Luffy could wield in my humble opinion. I mean, he wouldn't just want to pick up any sword because that's really not his style, but Nanmaran submitted the one perfect weapon for the soon-to-be King of the Pirates. Behold, because I present to you what may just be the single most broken and awesome sword that should absolutely exist in One Piece, the Meat Ona sword. Now yes, in theory, it may just be the most simple idea quite yet. It's a sword that summons meat infinitely. That's the whole thing. Which you might think I'm joking, but let's be real. This power would make Luffy legitimately invincible. I mean, we're talking about a guy who bounced back to fight Kaido, Kizaru, Saturn, all of these characters acting like nothing happened just because he got some good food in his belly. And so just imagine what a Luffy would be capable of if he could just always, whenever he feels like it, summon food. So I would argue easily the strongest sword and swordsman combination on this entire list. But even I have to admit that to be the most broken sword, it has to be a weapon that anyone in the world can wield and still break the series. A sword that could make someone like Beppo, let's say, into the strongest fighter in One Piece. I do think that I found just the #1 top sword for this job. And so with a very special thank you to Ishant Mali, I do present to you the most broken sword ever, Baharat. The sword named Baharat has varieties of super abilities, all themed around true, raw, and just absolute destruction. Here's the deal. This blade channels the user's soul into the weapon, unleashing horrific sounds and chanting. And anyone who would hear the sound of this mantra would fall under the charm of Shiva, the god of destruction, completely annihilating both their mind and their spirit. I told you, this sword is no joke. And that's just the start. Once your mind has been shattered, if you're struck by the blade itself, you are absolutely screwed. And that's because once you're hit, the blade creates a pocket dimension within your own mind, basically rendering you insane as you have to watch the creation of the entire universe. And in this way, the sword references Brahman, the creator in Hinduism. So yeah, compared to the others here, this sword doesn't just pack a punch, it's literally godly. And what's even crazier, nobody knows what the third strike of this blade can actually do. All anyone knows is that it alludes to Vishnu, but nobody's ever been alive to actually tell the tale. Now, I did try to tell you that these swords are absolutely no joke, but it does make me wonder, since sadly none of these do exist in One Piece, which are the strongest swords in all of One Piece? And oh, how convenient, look at that. You can just watch that video right here. Thank you so much for watching. Maybe you've been noticing that I've been wearing some brand new merchandise, and this one, compared to all the limited drops that we've done so far, will be actually there indefinitely. You can always at any point pick one up underneath any of the videos in the shop there, just to, if you want to support the channel or just rock this shirt. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.